We're going to show how to make some dusting mitts for lower elementary, like this. And we want to make sure they're kind of big enough, and maybe some small ones for small hands. Essentially, we bought from Costco a whole package of washcloths, maybe about 10 by 10, 12 by 12. And we're just going to get about 3 out of this. We're going to cut off this decoration here. We may have to cut off this edge because that's really thick when we sew it together. So we essentially get things like this. We're going to have to cut that off. And you want them to end up about like that. And then you sew these edges, turn them inside out, and there's a dusting mitt. After you get a piece, you divide this into thirds and trim off the parts you don't want to be working with. You want to edge in a U shape all this frayed edge here, because if you don't, just sewing it together is probably going to start to unravel. So we're edging everything, and then we're going to trim the edges and turn it inside out. So thanks to Maria for figuring this all out. She's the sewing whiz. And Alyssa helped sew some too. And I'm trying to turn out the last few of them here. So we're going to edge this cutout piece here so that it's not all unraveling. This is a nice 50-year-old Kenmore sewing machine. We broke about 10 needles trying to do this until we kind of adjusted the bottom plate here. Kind of have a long stitch, light pressure because this is light foot pressure because this is a thick piece of material, especially when you double it up and start doing it. The precision of the tension up and down, to get the interlock right at the right place, I have no idea. It seems to be holding, but it's really hard to tell with this terry cloth material. So with this particular machine, you get the needle in first, then you lower the foot, and you always got to go back and forth on these ends. And sometimes I forget to do that. Now go backwards, now forward. Another thing that might break your needles is pulling the material through. You can't really pull it because you got no hands, just guiding it, essentially turning it left or right to aim it in the right direction. If you pull it, that needle's going to hit the plate and break. So I stop at the bottom of the U shape with the needle in, turn it 90 degrees, foot down, keep going. And this edge, the short edge here, is the where the hand goes in. So I'm going to do this 3 times, just by reversing. Make it nice and get to the edge, reverse. Now I'm steering backwards, kind of hard. For the third pass. Stopping at the edge with it in, foot up, rotate 90 degrees, foot down, and I'm going to the edge. I mean, it's really rough. It's approximately, the stitch is going to the edge, right up to the edge. It could be about a few millimeters in, 1/8 of an inch in, but it varies. It can even go outside of it, and somehow it holds it together. It's a miracle of sewing machines. Down. I'm not pushing it, I'm just steering it. Of course, to finish off the end, you go back with the backwards button. About 1/2 inch and forward. Lift it up, put up. Pull it out. And we're going to trim it off where there's a little cutting thing here. I like to use the scissors. And then you're trimming off all the excess bits. They're not hanging out. Throwing those away. Putting these back. Still got that one. Now I'm folding it and going to just tape these two shut. Not that one, otherwise you can't get in. If for some reason these things are crooked, you just line up this up, sew it, and then maybe if it's going to be like that, you don't want to sew it like that. You just line them up, and then maybe you have a pouch uneven, that's fine. So this is what's tricky here to remember. Push it in enough. Gotta have enough excess thread here. Goes in, foot down. Now I have to come about half an inch and then go back. I'm essentially, when I start this, I'm finishing off this edge here. Remember to hit the reverse button all the way to the edge. And I have a nice tight end there. And reverse at the end here. Finish it off. All the way up. Pull it out. Cut. See, now that is nice and tight and not going to unravel after I cut these. At least for a couple years. Doing the last part. I don't think it really matters if I go this way or this way, because I'm used to it this way, so I'll keep doing what I'm used to. I may have to even up the edges a bit. Going in. Whoop. Hit the accelerator too soon. Don't forget to reverse. I almost forgot to reverse. There we go. And my thread pulled out. I wasn't sewing anything. We'll take a short break here while I rethread the needle. Amazing that I can even do that. Okay. Tight a knot. Finish the start. And finish the finish. Cut off all the little bits. We're turning it inside out. That's how it's going to be used. It's a more finished look. And you want to test your ends, make sure they're closed tight. They are. And test these, make sure they're closed tight. And they are. And there we go. A couple other little notes. If you have an old machine like ours, you want to oil it if it hasn't been oiled in several decades. So we generally multi-purpose lubricant oil. There's like 80 points if you have your manual to oil it in, upside, inside, outside. Check all those things in the manual. And some of them you can just get easily with this one. Others, I have to use something like this, which has an extension, and you pop that out, and then you can get into tight places. What's annoying about this is that as you kind of get into the place to oil, it pushes shut, and you wonder why nothing comes out. And there's also sometimes you've turned this machine upside down, and there's a hole that's not quite vertical for gravity. It's almost going sideways. Actually use something like this, a little oil drop on it, and it kind of siphons it down right into the little, wherever the oily lubrication hole might be. And it's good to have some cloths around, paper towels, put everything on. some Q-tips to wipe up drips of oil so they're not dripping down into the machine where they're not supposed to be. A flashlight to be able to see things, and screwdrivers because sometimes you're taking covers off, and then let it run for a little while. It should, and after we did that, things were going a lot better. Also, the problem we had was this plate. That plate, you can kind of see it's chewed up, broke like 10 needles, and got to get that plate just right so the needle doesn't hit it. Here we kind of moved this lever. It snapped into place, but it was kind of off a bit, so I actually loosened the lever a bit and just nudged it like a millimeter in another direction, and the needle stopped hitting that plate. That was good.